Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah and Christian, for that really, really insightful panel there. So now we're going to move on to the next panel, how to prepare corporates, tokens, and programmable money. So wow, it's a lot to cover in 30 minutes, but as we saw yesterday from the game, history can be made in 30 minutes. So let's try to do the same. So I will be your moderator for this panel. I'm representing both the Crypto Value Association and Stone Partners. So I hold roles in both, implicated within the Swiss ecosystem. We're joined by Heinz Günther Lux, a digital strategist at Evonik Digital, David Palmer, blockchain lead IoT at Vodafone Business, and Sebastian Becker, CCO at Riddle and Code. So maybe we just start this whole thing off by a short round of introductions, and maybe Heinz Günther, you'd like to start off by presenting yourself and how Evonik Digital is involved within the blockchain space.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ahmed. My name is Heinz Günther Lux, and I'm a digital strategist at Evonik. I work in the chemical industry since more than 30 years. And the interesting thing about the chemical industry is that we are connected to any producing company worldwide. And when Katharina said think big, I think the chemical industry is the industry who thinks big. And when we develop solutions and we can penetrate these solutions into the market, then there's a game changer in place. And in fact, we are working since quite a time on tracer technology, which enables physical products, physical objects to be traced and tracked in a blockchain. And when you do this, you can follow and can make use of it in the area of circular economy. You can use it in the supply chain law. You can use it for a new business model in autonomous supply chain, and so on and so on. And this is the scope we are working in Evonik, and we are already pretty far, especially when we look into the money area where we use programmable money, for example, for a real use case. So, short intro.
Great, thank you. I mean, a lot of interesting parts there that you mentioned, supply chain, track and trace, programmable money, etc. But we'll get into that in a bit. Maybe David, you'd like to introduce yourself as well, and a little bit how Vodafone is implicated in the space.
Hi, yes, so I'm David Palmer. I'm the blockchain lead for Vodafone Business IoT. I'm also leading a project called the Digital Asset Broker, which is about device economy of things, device identity, authentication, and transaction. But very interested in the tokenization space. I've been looking at this for I think blockchain for the past 4 years, tokenization definitely for the last 2 years. Interested to see the maturity that's come about, and very much looking forward to this timely discussion on tokenization in corporate enterprise.
Great, amazing, thanks. And last but not least, Sebastian, I mean, the audience knows you rather well already, I'm sure, and Riddle and Code at this point. So maybe you'd like to give just a brief intro to yourself, and then we can dive straight in and start things off discussing the infrastructure that's now in place to help large corporations, such as Vodafone, for example, that can better transition into this world.
Sure, thanks, Sheraz. So, Sebastian Becker, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Riddle and Code, and I think, Chris took the opportunity to introduce us a little bit. We pride ourselves to call ourselves or be called the blockchain interface company, and this also puts us in a position where we need to educate the markets, because the aspect of how to connect physical objects to blockchains is of course not in the focus of many discussions, let's say outside of the industries, and it also puts us in touch with many interesting people out there like David and Heinz Günther. So we hope to be able to contribute to let's say the end-to-end solution. I myself am based in Munich, so commuting if we don't have a lockdown between Munich and Vienna, where I am right now at our headquarters. And I'm not the foremost, let's say, technology person. That's why I have a lot of colleagues internally working, to turn visions into reality. But I'm more the guy to look at the business development opportunities and try to align, let's say, what we can offer with the requests and the needs of our various partners.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sebastian. Then maybe we kick things off straight there, and you can tell us more about that business side now, and how the infrastructure has really been put in place now within this space, and where we're at. Maybe you can give us a little bit of where we're at.
Yeah, sure. I think, if we look at this panel today, or the webinar today, the structure, of course we put it in place intentionally, but it says a few things. So regardless of where projects or companies came from, Riddle & Code started with, let's say, IoT technology in mind, end of 2016. We were also, then slowly but surely being sucked into the adoption of blockchain technology in the financial sector. That's the industry that had to take care about a new asset class that was in the market. So we need regulatory compliant and highly secure and efficient technologies to trade crypto. So that has become, in the meantime, our main business line, but we haven't given up our, let's say, IoT focus. And that's, I think, where we can make a difference, because, most of us also, hopefully in the audience, might have heard of the Oracle problem. So a blockchain is highly secure, but how do you make sure that data sets that are coming from the outside are, let's say, to be trusted? We all saw it from the US presidential elections, how difficult something can be, even if it seems to be so easy, and somebody just take an election result and types it into a data management system. But sometimes it's not so easy, and especially if we connect the physical layers, be it in supply chains or over-the-counter situations, to a settlement layer, then, or hopefully then, all the CFOs wake up and say, look, if we have cheated data sets, then this affects my bottom line. So what can we do to prevent it? It's already a shame that an industry like the automotive industry can live with 30% odometer fraud, but that's, of course, quite easily to understand. It doesn't affect the aftermarket or the secondary car sales market, their main business model. So that's why everybody can live with it, and we as consumers pay the bill in the end. And you can continue like that. There has been fraud with energy meters. There's certainly a lot of efficiency in supply chains. And also, mobile phones, one of David's main areas of interest, also have their security issues. So I think that it's very relevant what Katharina said also in the first panel. Cybersecurity has to be taken care of. We need more efficiency, and we need a tokenization or incentive layer to steer things in the right direction. And sometimes that can be a consortium in the chemical industry, or it can be consumer facing, since most of things that Vodafone do are consumer facing. So tokens are a very universal token, meaning instrument, to reach these goals, and hopefully we can deliver it in a highly secure and end-to-end secured way.
Well, thank you. I mean, you touched on a lot of points. Hopefully, we'll have time to discuss a few of them in further detail. But maybe we touch on what you've been doing, Heinz Scooter, and what you've been doing at Evonik, which it's quite inspiring. And really, what struck me was the kind of tagline: "We contribute the small things to make a big difference." Right. And my question to what actually Sebastian was saying is, to your belief, is blockchain a small innovation? Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's quite simple. That will make a big difference, or is it just a catalyst for further innovation on top of that?
No, basically, the blockchain technology has put a different view on data, because in the old days, always systems were protected. And we know systems cannot be protected, whether we talk about cloud, whether we talk about other ways. Only if you have your computer in your office and it's not connected to anything, then you are safe. So, but now with the blockchain, we protect data on the source of the data. And the Oracle problem is a challenge, because that's the only point where data can be manipulated. But other than that, the data can be trusted, and the data are encrypted and can be shown to everybody who has an access right to them. This makes a complete difference to anything what we think about data management overall. And the other part is I'm pretty sure in next years, there is no object anymore which has not a digital representation or digital twin. So then you can manage data and products in a completely different way than that what we do today. So with certificates, with discussions, with everything what's related to that. So these are the big difference. The data are the center of the blockchain, and they are protected from the data source of it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, data is practically the center of the world now as well, right? I mean, great. And so, David, I mean, we've spoken together quite a bit actually over the past couple of months about Vodafone's proof of concepts using blockchain as underlying technology. I mean, how game-changing do you see its potential in the use cases that not only you're putting forward into the world, but all the others around?
So I'll start off with blockchain, and yeah, we say, okay, blockchain is trust, but if you look at the majority of the processes that we undergo individually or as organizations, a lot of the processes and the checks and the balances are based on a lack of trust. So, for example, you go to the airport, you present your you present your passport, and you're presenting your passport because you need to prove who you are. You then present it again when you leave. You present it when you arrive. You use it as authentication and other things. And you just look at the processing and the resources that are used, to mitigate that trust. And then you see the meaning of blockchain, because blockchain offering a trust where for companies you can extend that automation boundary to others. It has huge potential to increase automation and efficiencies. And with the Internet of Things, as Sebastian mentioned, the Internet of Things, I mean, we're very big on the Internet of Things. I think we've got 130 billion connected devices. But there's one fact, right? A lot of the data, or the significant amount of data from devices, aren't used, and devices are to an extent siloed. So the information from devices are essentially coming from going back to base. They're not spanning cross organization. And blockchain has the potential to bring that together. It has the potential to be a trust anchor that will allow devices or people or business models associated with one industry, one company, to speak to business models, devices, people from other companies, regions, etc., by providing that trust anchor layer. So I think the potential to revolutionize business is very real, and I think we're starting to see that to an extent spurred on by COVID. The COVID passport, I think, or vaccine passport is a good example of that starting to happen. But I think the sheer monetary incentive to increase efficiency, to have more streamlined and automated processes, is key. I think the other side of it is tokenization. And tokenization essentially adds a medium of exchange to that. So where you have parties that trust each other, essentially, how do you capitalize on that? So if you have two devices that trust each other, and one has data that the other one wants, how do you then facilitate a transaction between that? And that's where tokenization, digital identity, and blockchain start to come into play to facilitate that. And for blockchain to really take off, I mean, I think if we look at the statistics, blockchain is probably 0.01% utilized, right? And a lot of that is crypto. But for it to really gain adoption in industry, it's going to be linked to the bottom line. It's not going to be sort of technically beautiful use cases. It's going to be about where business leaders and enterprises see the chance to either improve current business or get new business, and they're seeing an opportunity. So that's my sort of initial thinking on those two things. But in short, I see that blockchain has a significant potential to impact business, and in times where things are lean and technologies are reducing barriers to industry, or barriers to entry in a number of industries, it's going to play a key role over the next 5 years, in my view.
Great, thank you, and we'll explore a little bit later what we can do to actually go that step further towards adoption. But before we do that, I mean, you touched upon trust, Heinz, because you touched upon data, right? And I think these two elements go quite well with programmable money, right? And one of the topics of our discussion. I mean, Sebastian, maybe you can give us some insights. I mean, what do you expect from programmable money? Yeah, speak to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it will become a main driver for, let's say, the mass adoption, because right now, if we talk to big companies, and there are, of course, notable examples such as Evonik, where we really see, a broad understanding of the benefits of blockchain technology, maybe also because their early POCs were well framed, so they were eager to show results early on. So that certainly helps, but many business units out there that deal with blockchain technology, and I think that's at least what I can observe from European and also US companies, that's true. They are lacking a coherent strategy around it. So oftentimes units are, making themselves busy for a year or so, and then they do not successfully break through with an internal presentation of results. So the board is not really incentivized enough to look at it, to fully understand the 360-degree perspectives that blockchain is offering. And then there is no real adoption of, I wouldn't call it blockchain strategy, but we need a coherent innovation strategy. And I think we heard about the various benefits that blockchains are bringing. But for sure, as soon as blockchain technology is used to drive, programmable money, the digital euro or the digital yuan, then everybody will wake up and understand, if we cannot efficiently program our industrial services, then we will be doomed rather quickly, because the efficiency gains are high. So the introduction of programmable money will not be, an iterative piece of innovation that leads to efficiency gains of, 0.5%. So there will be a relatively quick effect, especially for companies that have international business. And others that are in their niches, they also will need to think about, how can I now collaborate with my partner companies, with my, companies in my proximity, or even competitors, because blockchain is crying for collaboration. It's IoT times programmability times security. So everything is there, and there's no excuse anymore, basically.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, and Heinz-Günther, I know that you've been involved in a lot of subjects around programmable money. Would you like to comment a little bit on what Sebastian just mentioned?
Yeah, first of all, why have we started with a programmable money case in the blockchain area? And always one of the challenges is, if you have a traditional company working with a technology which is in the press more negative than positive, then you need to start in a way that you can convince people with a complete different way of working. And the lucky thing is that together with BASF and Commerzbank, we had the chance to discuss a specific process between Evonik and BASF. And this is because the chemical industry is connected, I would say, all over the world, because we are supplier and customer. And we said we have so much interactions between the companies, and they are, let's say, processed in a traditional form. And this traditional form is very time consuming for people. And as David has rightly said, there's a lot of control mechanism, not only here from the airport, but it's also internally in the company. And we said, how can we change the process? Because it's a regular process, always on and on the same process. How can we make it different using the blockchain technology, smart contract, and then connect it to the financial area? Why the financial area? Because everybody's affected by the finance area. On one side, blockchain is hijacked by the finance area. On the other side, it's a good opportunity. And that's what we did. We looked into the real euro that was reducing the hurdle of acceptance within managers in Evonik, because financial managers hate complexity. So we started in thinking in the euro. Commerzbank brought in their ideas about the programmable euro here. And then we developed a process of an existing business which is done since, 100 years. So the invoice verification process, and we connected it into two wallets from BASF and Evonik, run by Commerzbank, or established by Commerzbank. And then we fully integrated the process without having a bank account anymore in between, without having a invoice verification process of people anymore. The only challenge is to have real good data on both sides. So we say mirror image data we need in the system, and then the things are running smoothly. And we were very successful. We ran more than almost 3 million euro in 6 weeks. Press releases out there. And that was the opening in the mind of people to think this is more than only blockchain and Bitcoin. And if we link that more in area where we say we can connect physical objects to that process, and then we are there. And therefore, we work on the autonomous supply chains, where we say there's even more mechanical or let's say manual work of people done in the process, but always in the same way. If we put that now in a smart contract, we can even go further with the automation part. And between BASF and Evonik, two powerful companies, when we do something, people are looking. And I think this is an important part of the success story of our use cases when we work here on blockchain in the area of industry.
No, very, very well said. I really like the analogy of opening the mind, right? You're opening it towards it. And so now that our minds have been opened, David, how do we really kind of go that extra mile, get to that adoption, and even close the gaps that might be there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off by saying that in terms of programmable money, there's sort of 3 elements. So we discussed blockchain, which is the trust. We discussed tokenization, which is the sort of medium of exchange for transactions, and obviously smart contracts provides the logic for that. But there's also something else which is transforming, which is wallets. And I sort of said this before, but I see a world where you'll have organization wallets, you'll have wallets for your devices, you'll have wallets for people who are connected to that. And to have programmable money, that is also a very important transformation that needs to happen. And you associate your wallets to smart contracts. You can associate your devices and their transactions to smart contracts, and then you start having the landscape or the preconditions for programmable money to start impacting some of the stuff we're doing in real industry. One of the examples could be supply chain and basing transactions within a supply chain based on data from IoT devices, etc. But the wallet and this transition away from bank accounts or bills to people, businesses, and things having a wallet, I think, is a transition that is important. In terms of adoption, as I said, 0.01% in this world is starting to get a lot of attention, a lot of that in crypto. But a lot of the adoption comes with making blockchain and the apps associated with blockchain easy to access. And a lot of sort of our thinking on that is, okay, from an IoT perspective with billions of devices, on cellular networks and on IoT platforms, how can you easily, get people and devices, who already have phones and already connected to IoT platforms, connected to the blockchain, and that's something we've been working on. But I think not trying to push Vodafone or what we're doing, but I think leveraging existing ecosystems and existing technologies, with blockchain is the way forward. So I often say that this is evolution, not a revolution. It may be a technological revolution, but in terms of adoption, it's going to be an evolution. And you do that by bringing in some of the existing technology. So one of the questions I ask is, why can a smart contract not work on real money as well as digital money? Why can I not access a blockchain through my phone, right, or directly from my device? These are key things that drive adoption. I think solving some of these problems and proving them will be important as we go on to achieving real adoption. I mean, you only have to look at a MetaMask wallet and try and try and exchange tokens on it, and you realize the friction and the technical know-how that's needed. And we almost need what Jobs did for the iPhone and using apps on it to happen for blockchain. And I know there are some real cool projects looking at that, but that is going to be what's important. That's for consumer and for business.
Great. Well, I'm really glad that you touched on that collaborative side. It kind of loops really well back in to what Sebastian was saying at the very beginning. I am cognizant of time as well. As a nerd, would you like to take questions from the audience now, or?
Yeah, if you close your session, I would be happy to start the Q&A.
Oh, it was wonderful. I think short and sweet. We touched on a lot of different points. I think thank you so much for the conversation. I think conversation continues now with the audience. So all yours. Thank you so much.
Let me make one final remark, if allowed.
Yes.
As David said, it's very important to make the public and the industry aware of the properties and of the opportunity with blockchain on one side, and to make them aware of the challenges we are facing. We have published just last week a book, sorry, it's only German available, it's about blockchain and the economy in a real break situation. It will be published end of August, also in an audio book in English. But here we covered really those topics which we discussed from the political, from the financial, from the IP, from the challenge between China and US, and from the point of real, what is the driver of blockchain technology, as I've explained it here. This is our way, how we want to make the greater public aware of this ongoing change and the solution potential blockchain is providing.
Thanks for that, Heinz. Great that you took the time to put this book together. As I understood it, it was supported to a certain extent by Evonik, but you did it, let's say, in your private life as well, and spent a lot of time. So grateful for that kind of know-how transfer, and hopefully people still buy books and use them, but putting it out as an audio book is certainly great. I have one question. Is that a Deep Purple NFT in the frame behind you, or is it just a normal, cover?
You mean by the book?
No, at the wall behind you. Is it a Deep Purple NFT LP cover, or is it just a traditional one still?
It's a real traditional one, a vinyl, and it's in a nice frame. It was the first album I loved, and I was the age of 7 or 8 at that time. So I still love it.
Right. That's why I think the next webinar should be on insurance technology and blockchain. When that casino in Montreux was burned down to the ground, we couldn't retrieve all the data. So blockchain can also save a lot of insurance cases. But over to you, Aishnur. You wanted to give us some questions from the audience. Sorry for that excursion.
Sebastian. I want to open up the Q&A session now and want to give the opportunity to everybody get into the game. I just actually have written down the questions came in, but I want to start with the question. I think that was for Katarina. Katarina, when you were talking about the tokenization, where do you see the biggest challenges in this area? Would you like to share some inputs about that?
Well, the problem is, of course, Katarina couldn't stay with us for all the session, so we can for sure, send it to her, and then she can come back about that. But I hope that we covered, some of the issues around it in the panel and also in the fireside chats. I think what Heinz mentioned right now is of course of utmost importance. It doesn't help if we have every week a webinar where the believers are talking to each other. So we have to spread the word. So publishing books, giving presentations, putting out, pieces and blogs on websites. That's certainly the way forward. And also we have to increase the efforts, I think, in various lobby organizations. That's where Katarina, that's what I know, spends a lot of time. You have to preach to the not yet converted decision makers out there. And Sheraz, I think that's also what you are doing with the Crypto Valley Association, right?
Yes, that's exactly.
Okay, more questions?
Yes, Sebastian, I think you already covered that in your discussion with Katarina, but maybe you would like to add some more inputs about that. What is the current situation, status of the tokenization regulation across European Union?
Well, I think we have to differentiate between security tokens, where we still have a market-to-market approach, and it's totally clear and understandable that regulation will let's say, hit the markets, and that there cannot be big exemptions for, let's say, the digital asset industry. So it will have to somehow smoothly fit in with existing regulations in the security space. In the utility area, and that's maybe for industrial tokenization a very important one, we are all waiting for MiCA. So that's the, let's say, draft regulation that is out there on a European level to be discussed and adopted. We assume this will take place in the second half of 2022. So until then, you know, full-fledged lobbying is still a possibility. And coming back to the presentation that Chris has given about the MyPower project with Wienenergie, there we have two tokens. You know, one tokens that regulates, let's say, shared ownership in photovoltaics assets, so the physical installations, and then we have the kilowatt hour token, which is designed as a utility token. That's why it has limited use, so you can redeem it with a selected number of companies right now here in Vienna. But of course, this project will also be exported to other areas of Austria first, and we will most likely within 6 months see it on various continents. So discussions are underway. So that means, you know, in the utility tokens area, which might drive a lot of tokenization in the industrial space, you have to get familiar with the current, let's say, draft situation that we have in Europe. There will most likely be passporting for utility tokens because it's a new field in Europe. But it will be interesting, of course, to see how elections and, you know, international policies or politics will influence decision making here. But it's clear that Europe might still be leading on the tech front, but is certainly not leading at the adoption front right now, and that should be worrying to all of us.
Thank you, Sebastian. Maybe you or Chris would like to talk about how we tackle the taxation aspect of the tokenization when the transactions are happening between the token holders.
Chris, one for you, maybe.
Yeah, this is a very good question, actually, because as a matter of fact, if you, for example, buy a share in a PV plant, that establishes ownership. Yeah? So we will see that in the future, certainly, it's basically a security in an asset that we expect to be taxed in exactly the same way that we know from standard financial assets. When it comes to trading, it's a little bit difficult. As you know, for cryptocurrencies, we have different regulations in different jurisdictions. Most of these jurisdictions say, well, it doesn't really matter where you make your money. As soon as you have an income, you have to tax it accordingly. The problem, there's certain, for example, in Austria and other regulations, there's 12 months of grace period. So if you don't realize your profits within 12 months, it's tax-free. But we will see how then that pans out. It is also has to do with how do you actually establish that form of income, for example, in the form of an ownership. And we said that the concept to do that is the identity, and the identity is brought to buy crypto chips. As a matter of fact, in current regulation, in many, you are not allowed to add a secure element that contains a crypto chip to a smart meter that measures all of the production. So there's a lot of things that have to come together. And frankly, we do not know what the final outcome will be. And that adds another uncertainty to the development in that area.
But maybe we should differentiate here between, let's say, regulation that will, set boundaries, for example, in the financial space, and evolving regulation like, smart meter certification that will for sure for the next generation also allow incorporation of crypto chips. That's what we are working on in the DENA BIMIL project right now. So there's also, let's say, positive trends if we talk about regulation, that new technologies are finding their ways into the next round of things.
Thank you, Chris and Sebastian. There was another question to Heinz Günther. How your project works from the regulatory side, for instance, with the custody. Would you like to share your experience about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, first of all, the discussion is always people want to get out the banks, but the banks have an important role, and the role is to make sure that the regulatories, KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering, is covered. And this is a legal thing we have to follow, and the industrial users definitely have to follow that. So we decided to use here Commerzbank because they have the idea and the knowledge how to incorporate in this process of exchanging money between the wallets, and to make sure that the AML and the KYC, for example, is followed. This is a part which Commerzbank brought in here, and this is, I think, definitely an important area, as long as these rules have to be followed, because in the vision, I can imagine that these rules do not have to be followed anymore, because everything is recorded and documented on the blockchain. So we even don't need any more KYCs if the identity is clear. But currently we need to follow this way, and therefore it was for us important that Commerzbank has solutions to develop us this point.
Thank you. And we also got an interesting question about the 5G. With the onset of 5G and the benefits of blockchain brought about by various communication service providers, several use cases came to mind, including development of digital identities, swifter dispute resolutions, and many more. Where do some of the leading CSPs feel positioned this year and early next year in the adaptation of blockchain? So would you like to share some ideas about that?
Yeah, so I think, but 5G is incredibly exciting. I mean, from a connectivity point of view, it's faster, low latency technology for the Internet of Things and use cases around the Internet of Things and blockchain. This opens up a lot of a lot of possibilities to have use cases and solutions that we didn't have before. In terms of the rollout of 5G, I think that's well publicized. So there is a sort of well-known roadmap to get that out into key areas as soon as possible, which has already started. Things like autonomous driving, where you need low latency, sort of fits nicely into the WAG that Sebastian was talking about in terms of device identities or identities for a car, and transactions on tolls and parking and EV charging, which are exciting things that also fit in the context of some of the initiatives by our governments to increase the adoption of EVs and renewable energy, etc. So I think 5G will play a key role in that. It's a key enabler, and we spoke many times in the past about the 5G, IoT, and blockchain, and I think 5G now coming on stream is good timing for some of the sort of use cases that will now be possible.
Thank you, David. I think we covered most of the questions. If there's any question that I left out, please make sure to come back to me or our speakers on LinkedIn. We will also share with you our speakers' contact information via email. Alexandra, I want to hand over to you for the final words.
Okay, thank you, Aisinu, and all the speakers for the wonderful event today. The recording of the video will be sent to all participants in the next few days, and I hope you enjoy the event. We are going to host another webinar with video and code speakers in September, so make sure to tune in our social media channels and newsletter. That is from my side, and I'm looking forward to see you soon. Bye.